Welcome to Sleepy Theory. Tonight, we leave the frantic, neon-lit noise of the modern world far behind us. As we travel across the invisible bridges of time, to a land where the stars and the sand speak a secret, ancient language of their own. Close your eyes now and imagine yourself standing at the very edge of the vast Sahara Desert, just as the last hints of twilight fade into the deep indigo of the night. The sun, which ruled this land with a golden fire for hours, has finally set beyond the rolling dunes. And the intense heat of the afternoon has been replaced by a gentle, surprisingly cool breeze that carries the scent of distant horizons. Under your bare feet, the sand is remarkably soft and fine, holding on to the last, lingering warmth of the ancient earth like a memories of summer day. As you take your first few steps into this ocean of sand, the world around you becomes incredibly quiet. The only sound is the rhythmic sigh of the wind as it reshapes the dunes. A sound that feels like the desert itself is taking a slow, deep breath. Above you, the sky is no longer just a ceiling, but an endless, swirling ocean of deep, velvety indigo. Out here, thousands upon thousands of stars, brighter and more numerous than you have ever seen them in your life, flicker with a steady, silver light in the absolute silence of the wilderness. There is no city light here to dim their glow. No distant hum of engines to disturb the peace. No voices to distract your mind. There is only the vast, peaceful emptiness of the great dunes, stretching out toward infinity under the watchful gaze of the Milky Way. In the far distance, looming like majestic shadows against the starlight, are the great pyramids of Giza. Even in the dark, they command an overwhelming sense of awe and ancient power. They have stood here for over 4,500 years, watching the rise and fall of countless civilizations, the changing of rivers, and the passing of millions of nights just like this one. Imagine these pyramids not as ruins, but as they were meant to be seen. Long ago, they were covered in polished white Tura limestone, making them shine like solid diamonds under the Egyptian moon. Tonight, they are silent guardians of a history we are only just beginning to truly understand. As we walk closer to these giants, let the rhythm of your own breath match the slow, steady shift of the sands beneath you. You are perfectly safe here in this moment. You are far, far away from the worries, the tasks, and the lights of tomorrow. Tonight, the desert will share its deepest secrets with you and lead you by the hand into a deep, restorative, and beautiful sleep. as you leave the vast, open horizon of the dunes behind and approach the massive, weathered entrance of the Great Pyramid. A strange and wonderful change begins to occur in the air around you. The soft, golden light of the moon begins to fade as you step into the shadow of the entrance. And it is replaced by the cool, heavy, and ancient silence of the stone. Take a moment to imagine the sheer, impossible weight of the limestone and granite stacked above you. Millions of tons of ancient rock, carved and placed with a precision that modern engineering still struggles to replicate, even with the most advanced machines. But as you move deeper into the narrow, sloping inner chambers away from the desert world, you notice a phenomenon that seems to defy the very laws of the desert environment. The air inside the pyramid becomes perfectly, uncannily still. Outside on the Giza Plateau, the desert heat can be absolutely unforgiving during the day, reaching nearly 50 degrees Celsius, and then dropping sharply and quickly to a chilling cold as soon as the sun disappears. But here, inside the very heart of the Great Pyramid, the temperature remains exactly 20 degrees Celsius, 68 degrees Fahrenheit, all year round. It never changes, not even by a single degree. It is the same in the height of a blistering summer. And it is the same in the coldest depths of a desert winter night. This is the world's oldest and most perfect passive air conditioning system, a masterpiece of thermal engineering that has functioned without power for thousands of years. The incredibly thick walls of limestone act as a massive thermal buffer, absorbing the fierce energy of the sun throughout the day and releasing it so slowly and evenly that the interior chambers stay in a state of eternal, rhythmic balance. Listen closely to the silence of the stone that surrounds you now. It is not a hollow or empty silence, but a heavy, protective, and comforting one. Modern scientists believe that the narrow shafts carved into the king's and queen's chambers, designed with impossible accuracy, actually allow the pyramid to breathe in a sense. They pull in the cool, dense air of the night and keep it trapped within these hallowed halls, creating a sanctuary of stability in a world of constant change. Close your eyes as you stand in the center of the chamber and feel that crisp, perfect 20-degree air on your skin. It is a living connection to the past. This is the very same air that the pharaohs and the ancient priests breathed, preserved within these granite walls for over 45 centuries. Let this constant, unchanging coolness calm your racing mind. Let it soothe your spirit and lead you deeper and deeper into a state of total rest. Who are the hands? The thousands of beating hearts that move these mountains of stone into their perfect positions. For a very long time, through movies and legends, we were told a story of suffering. We were told that these monuments were built by the hands of thousands, of slaves working under the shadow of the whip. But the sands of Giza have recently shared a much more beautiful and accurate story with us. Just a short distance from the pyramids themselves, archaeologists have uncovered the remains of a great, organized city. This was not a camp for captives, but a place of immense honor and community. Imagine a bustling, highly organized society of 30,000 people. Architects, stonemasons, mathematicians, and laborers, all working together in a magnificent rhythm of shared purpose and national pride. These builders were the elite workers of their time, and they were treated with the highest respect. The evidence shows that they were provided with the very best resources the Nile had to offer. They ate the finest bread, the best meats, and were given medical care that was centuries ahead of its time. We have even found their own records, carved and written into the stones they moved. They organized themselves into proud teams with names like the Friends of Khufu or the Drunkards of Menkaure, working not out of fear, but out of a deep sense of brotherhood and a desire to be part of something eternal. Picture the scene at the end of a long day as the sun begins to dip below the horizon. The work is finished for now. The heavy copper chisels are carefully put away, and the warm, comforting scent of freshly baking bread and roasting meats drifts through the evening air of the workers' village. These men and women knew they were not just building a tomb. They were building a bridge to the afterlife, a vision of eternity that would outlast the very memory of their names. Every multi-ton block of stone was moved with a collective, synchronized breath. 1, 2, 3. Pull. It was the harmony of their combined efforts, the silent understanding between thousands of people, that made the impossible possible. They understood a fundamental truth of the universe, that to create something that lasts forever, one must work with a calm, focused, and dedicated heart. As you lie here now, in the safety of your own space, think of that same beautiful harmony within your own body. Your heart, your steady breath, and your quiet mind are all finally moving together toward a state of total peace. Like the pyramid builders at the end of their day, you have done your work. You have fulfilled your tasks. Now is your time to rest, to let go, and to find your place in the sanctuary of the night. welcome back to our journey through the eternal sands of time. Tonight, we turn our gaze upward, moving away from the heavy, silent stones of the earth and toward the flickering, silver lights of the celestial ocean. For thousands of years, scientists, astronomers, and quiet dreamers have wondered about a specific mystery on the Giza Plateau. Why are the three Great Pyramids arranged in such a specific, slightly offset way? If you look at the two larger pyramids, they are perfectly aligned on a diagonal axis. But the third, smallest one, is shifted significantly and intentionally to the left. For centuries, early explorers thought this might have been a simple architect's error. But the truth hidden in the stars is far more poetic, far more precise, and far more intentional. If you look at the center of the constellation Orion, known across the world as Orion's Belt, you will see three bright stars named Alnitak, Alnilam, and Mintaka. In the sky, just like on the ground at Giza, these three lights are not in a perfectly straight line. The smallest and dimmest star of the three, Mintaka, is slightly offset to the left of the other two, exactly like the smallest of the three pyramids on the desert floor below. This is the heart of the Orion correlation theory. The idea that the three pyramids were built to be a permanent terrestrial map of these very stars. To the ancient Egyptians, the constellation Orion was much more than just a cluster of stars. He was Sa, the celestial form of Osiris, the great god of rebirth and the ruler of the eternal afterlife. By building these stone giants in perfect, millimetric alignment with the heavens, the ancient architects were anchoring the divine order of the universe to the red, sacred soil of Egypt. They believed in a sacred cosmic principle, as above, so below. They felt that what happens in the infinite sky must be reflected on the earth to maintain harmony and balance in the world of men. Imagine the incredible precision and the generations of observation required to align millions of tons of solid granite and white limestone with infinite points of light millions of miles away in the dark, silent void of space. The architects of Giza were not just builders of stone. They were masters of the stars, reading the movements of the cosmos like a sacred book. Every corner, every base, every single angle of these monuments was calculated with devotion to honor the cosmic balance that keeps the stars in their paths and the earth on its axis. As you lie here now, in the stillness of your own night, feel the connection between the ground you rest on and the vast, silent sky above you. You're not just a spectator in this universe. You are part of this grand, ancient alignment, a single point of light in a much larger story. Take a deep, slow, and effortless breath. And imagine yourself floating gently upward from the desert floor. drifting slowly toward that belt of stars. You are safe, you are weightless, and you are resting under the same eternal lights that guided the pharaohs home thousands of years ago. Deep inside the absolute, heavy silence of the Great Pyramid, hidden behind massive walls of solid, dark granite that have not moved for millennia, there are four narrow, mysterious channels. They are no wider than a human hand, and they stretch upward at incredibly sharp angles, cutting through the heavy body of the pyramid toward the outer world. For a long time, early explorers and archaeologists called these air shafts. They assumed they were built simply to let the thousands of workers breathe while they labored in the dusty darkness of the interior. But as our technology improved and we explored further with small, robotic cameras, we realized the truth was far more mystical, far more spiritual. These shafts do not lead to the outside in a way that provides ventilation, and they were never meant for the comfort of the living workers. These are star shafts, spiritual pathways carved into the very stone fabric of the monument to serve as a bridge between the king's chamber and the heavens. One of these shafts in the king's chamber points directly toward the northern sky, aiming with impossible precision at the star Thuban, which was the North Pole star during the time of the Pharaohs. The Egyptians called the northern stars the imperishables. Unlike other stars that rise in the east and set in the west, these northern stars circle the pole eternally, never dipping below the horizon, never disappearing into the darkness of the underworld. To the ancient mind, these stars were the ultimate symbols of immortality, stability, and constant presence. They believed that the soul of the king would travel through this narrow stone shaft, leaving his earthly body behind to join the imperishables in the northern sky. He would become a star himself, unchanging, constant, and at peace for all eternity. The southern shaft points toward a different destiny, aiming at the heart of Orion, signaling a journey toward rebirth and the infinite cycle of the seasons. As you lie here now, drifting closer and closer to the edge of sleep, imagine your own thoughts becoming like these, distant, steady stars. Some of your thoughts may rise like the sun and eventually fade away into the distance. But your inner peace is like the imperishables. It is always there, circling the quiet center of your being. Constant, quiet, and undying. Let yourself be pulled upward by this ancient, silver light. Feel the heavy weight of the world dissolving away from you as your spirit passes through the stone and out into the infinite, welcoming night. In the quietest, darkest hours, just before the first light of dawn begins to touch the desert, the high priests of ancient Egypt would climb to the highest points of their sacred temples. They were watching for a single, brilliant light to break the deep darkness of the eastern horizon. They were looking for Sirius, the brightest star in the entire night sky. This star, which they called Sopdet, was seen as the celestial appearance of the goddess Isis. And her rising brought a sacred, ancient promise to every living soul in the Nile Valley. When Sirius appeared on the horizon, just before the sun, it was a signal that the annual flooding of the Nile was about to begin. The great river would soon overflow its banks, bringing life-giving water and rich, black mineral soil from the heart of the continent to the thirsty desert sands. Without this star, and without this flood, life in Egypt simply could not exist. It was a moment of deep spiritual gratitude, a powerful reminder that the movements of the stars and the life of the earth are eternally linked in a beautiful cosmic dance. But to the Egyptians, the Nile was not just a river of water on the earth. If you look up at the Milky Way on a clear, cold desert night, you see a vast, glowing river of silver stars stretching across the infinity of space. They saw this as the celestial Nile, a cosmic river where the gods sailed their eternal sunboats through the darkness of the night. They believe that when we sleep, our souls drift onto this celestial river to find rest, wisdom, and renewal. Tonight, you're drifting on that same celestial river. The current is slow. The water of the stars is warm, soft, and inviting to your touch. There is no more effort required of you tonight. No more tasks to complete. No more thoughts to carry. There is only the simple, holy act of letting go. Let the deep blue light of Sirius guide you through the shadows of your mind. And let the celestial river carry you into the deepest, most restorative sleep you have ever known. The river knows exactly where it's going. You are safe in its embrace. Your journey through the stars is now complete. Rest now in the eternal, silent garden of the sky. as our journey continues through the deep, ancient shadows of the past. We leave the towering, visible giants of the Giza Plateau far behind us. We travel hundreds of miles to the south, following the silver, winding curve of the eternal Nile through the heart of the desert, until we reach a place where the earth itself seems to hold its breath in sacred, eternal anticipation. Welcome to the Valley of the Kings. Imagine a landscape of jagged, sun-scorched limestone. A natural cathedral of orange rock in absolute, heavy silence, hidden away for the prying eyes and the restless, exhausting noise of the modern world. By the time of the New Kingdom, nearly 3,500 years ago, the pharaohs of Egypt had learned a difficult and necessary lesson about power and memory. They realized that the Great Pyramids, as magnificent and glorious as they were also massive invitations for those who sought to disturb the eternal rest of the kings. The monuments were too grand, too visible against the orange horizon, and their secrets were too exposed. So, they chose a different path to reach eternity. They chose the path of the unseen, the hidden, and the whispered. They sought out this remote, desolate valley, a place where the high, ancient desert walls create a natural fortress of solitude and long-lasting shadow. Here, the royal architects did not build upward toward the heat of the sun. Instead, they carved downward with impossible, divine patience, deep into the very cold, limestone heart of the mountain stone. Picture yourself standing at the very center of this valley right now, under the absolute, heavy stillness of the midnight sky. The air is crisp, dry, and carries the faint, ancient scent of sun-baked stone and settled dust that has been here for millennia. The high rock walls wrap around you like a protective, warm cocoon, blocking out every sound, every modern worry, and every flicker of artificial light from the world you left far behind. Looking up toward the jagged peaks, you see the mountain known as El Kern. In the pale, silver moonlight, it takes the perfect, natural shape of a pyramid. A silent sign from the earth itself that this ground is holy, intended for rest since the beginning of time. Beneath the soles of your feet, hidden under layers of gravel, flint, and ancient desert sand, are 63 of the most complex and breathtaking structures ever created by human hands. These are not just graves in the way we understand them today. They were sophisticated gateways to the stars, designed to remain a secret until the very end of time. The narrow entrances were covered with heavy limestone blocks and carefully hidden by the natural debris of the desert, until the mountains themselves became the eternal, unmoving guardians of the kings who slept within. Imagine the thousands of workers who walked these same narrow paths, carrying copper chisels and oil lamps to carve out kilometers of subterranean tunnels in total, respectful darkness. They worked in a rhythmic, meditative silence, honoring the transition from life to the afterlife with every steady strike of the hammer. As you breathe in the cooling desert air now, feel that same sense of protective secrecy settling over your own tired body. Like these ancient hidden tombs, you are now safely tucked away from the noise and the blinding light of your busy day. Your thoughts are slowly retreating, moving deeper into the quiet, inner sanctuary of your own mind. The sun has long since vanished beyond the dunes. The valley is perfectly still, listening only to the ancient wind, and you're ready to sink into the deep, unchanging, and beautiful peace of the sands. In the quiet, shimmering heat of a late November morning in the year 1922, a discovery was made in this valley that would change our collective understanding of history forever. A single humble stone step was found, carved into the floor of the valley, hidden beneath the ancient debris and limestone chips left behind by earlier tomb builders. It was the first step of a steep staircase that led down to the sealed, plaster door of Tutankhamun, a young king whose very name had been nearly erased from the long records of time. While almost every other royal tomb in this vast valley had been found and emptied by ancient explorers or tomb robbers over the many centuries, this one had remained perfectly, miraculously sealed for over 3,000 years. Imagine the absolute tension in the air as Howard Carter stood before that final door, his hands trembling slightly as he made a small hole in the upper left corner of the plaster. He held a single, flickering candle to the opening, allowing the warm light to spill into a room that had seen only darkness since 1323 BC. At first, he could see nothing as the hot, stale air escaped the chamber. But then his eyes adjusted, and he saw things that defied all human imagination. "Can you see anything?" his partner, Lord Carnarvon, asked with breathless, desperate anticipation. "Yes," Carter whispered into the ancient, dusty silence. "Wonderful things." Everywhere the candlelight touched, there was the warm, soft, and hypnotic glint of gold. There were golden chariots stacked against the stone walls, strange, gilded animal statues with piercing eyes of obsidian, and alabaster jars filled with perfumes that still held their sweet scent after thousands of years of isolation. But it was not the immense wealth that was most striking to those first explorers. It was the quality of the silence. The silence so heavy, so thick, and so profound that it felt like a physical weight. A sacred peace that had been preserved like a fragile treasure within the earth. The walls of this golden sanctuary were covered from floor to ceiling in vivid, glowing paintings. Colorful scenes showing the young king being welcomed and embraced by the gods of the underworld on his way to eternity. To the Egyptians, gold was far more than a simple currency. It was the very flesh of the gods. A divine metal that never tarnishes, never breathes, and never dies. Surrounding the king's massive, solid gold sarcophagus were 4 gilded wooden shrines, nested within each other like the layers of a deep, peaceful dream. Each one designed to act as a barrier, keeping the king's sleep undisturbed for all of eternity. As the archaeologists moved through the rooms, they found thousands of objects: bows and arrows, musical instruments, even a small lock of the king's grandmother's hair kept in a tiny box. But the most moving object of all was a tiny, withered bouquet of cornflowers left on the outer coffin. A final gift of love from a young queen, still visible and intact after 30 centuries of total darkness. It reminds us that behind the gold and the power, these were people who valued the same things we do tonight. The warmth of love, the importance of memory, and the hope of a peaceful, eternal rest. Think of your own room now as your own personal golden sanctuary. A place that is sealed away from the noise, the harsh light, and the endless demands of the outside world. The treasures of your day, your quiet memories, and your small, secret victories are all stored safely within the chambers of your own heart. The candlelight is slowly fading. The gold of the ancient world is glowing softly in the dark theater of your mind. You are protected by the heavy mountains. You are valued beyond all measure. And you are finally free to sink into the heavy, golden, and beautiful silence of the night. The final and perhaps most sacred mystery of a valley is the ancient, meticulous art of mummification. This was not merely a physical process, but a profound and complex spiritual journey. A ritual that took exactly 70 days of prayer and science to complete from start to finish. The Egyptians believed with all their hearts that the body was the temporary, earthly home of the soul. And for the spirit, to live forever in the paradise of the field of reeds. Its earthly home had to be preserved with absolute, loving, and scientific care. Every single step of this long process was performed with slow, meditative precision by specialized priests known as embalmers. First, the body was carefully treated with natron, a natural, powerful salt harvested from the sun-dried desert lake beds of the Wadi Natron. For 40 long days, this salt would slowly and gently remove all moisture from the tissues, effectively freezing the body in time and preserving its human form for thousands of years to come. While the salt did its quiet, chemical work, the air in the embalming workshop was thick with the heavy, sweet scent of burning frankincense and myrrh. Aromas that were thought to belong strictly to the realm of the eternal gods. Once the preservation was complete, the body was anointed with precious, aromatic oils and rare resins. Cedar from Lebanon, honey from the lush Nile Delta, and liquid gold from the mines of the Deep South. Then came the wrapping, a task that required hundreds of yards of the finest, softest linen available. Imagine the rhythmic, swaying motion of the priests as they wound the linen around each finger, each limb, and finally the whole body. Between each careful layer of linen, they placed sacred amulets made of gold, lapis lazuli, and deep red carnelian. Magical charms like the heart scarab, meant to protect the spirit from the various dangers and celestial trials of the underworld. This was not a ritual of death or ending. It was a ritual of profound, sacred transformation. They were turning that which is fragile, breathing, and temporary into that which is eternal, silent, and permanent. Every single wrap was accompanied by a quiet prayer, every oil by a rhythmic chant, ensuring the soul felt safe as it began its long trek through the stars. While the body was being prepared with such care on earth, the soul was said to be traveling through the Duat, a mysterious, dark realm of shadows, celestial gates, and ancient trials of the heart. The ultimate goal of this journey was the field of reeds, a beautiful, shimmering vision of heaven that mirrored the very best and most peaceful parts of Egypt. It was described as a place of eternal spring and golden, soft light, where the crops grew tall without any effort at all, where lost loved ones waited on the banks of clear rivers, and where the water of the celestial Nile was always cool, clear, and refreshing to the tired soul. To reach this place was to find total, beautiful harmony with the universe, a state they called Ma'at. Tonight, your own transformation into a state of total rest is beginning as you lie here in the dark. You are leaving the physical weight, the noise, and the flickering distractions of your day far behind you. Like the soft linen wraps of the ancient kings, your own blankets are holding you in a protective, warm, and heavy embrace. The scent of peace is all around you, and your journey to your own field of reeds, your own beautiful world of dreams, has finally and safely begun. There is absolutely nothing left for you to hold on to tonight. There is only the slow, rhythmic, and hypnotic pull of the river of sleep. Be still. Be preserved in this moment of perfect, ancient, and desert calm. The valley has finally fallen silent. The Pharaoh is at rest, in his tomb. The stars are in their correct places. Good night, and sleep for all eternity. As the moon reaches its absolute highest point over the silent, jagged peaks of the Valley of the Kings, we must pause to address the most famous and whispered mystery of all: the legend of the Pharaoh's curse. For over a century, since the first golden seals were broken, stories have been told in hushed tones of a dark, invisible shadow that falls upon any who dare to disturb the eternal sleep of the kings. These tales tell of ancient, protective spells carved into the stone doorposts, warnings intended to guard the royal gold and the king's spirit for thousands of years. But as we look through the calm lens of modern science and the deep stillness of this night, a different, much more fascinating truth begins to emerge from the dust of history. When the tomb of Tutankhamun was first opened after 3,200 years of being, perfectly, airtightly sealed, the air inside was not simply empty. It was thick with the weight of ages, holding onto the breath of the past. Modern scientists have discovered that these sealed, ancient chambers can actually hold microscopic life that has survived in the dark. Tiny spores of mold and bacteria have been resting in the dry limestone, waiting for a single breath of fresh air to return them to life. Among these invisible guardians are organisms like Aspergillus flavus, an ancient and resilient mold that can survive in the absolute dryness of the desert for millennia. When those early explorers broke the seals and stepped into the stagnant air, they weren't being struck by a magical spell, but by a biological reality. They were breathing in the very essence of a world that had been frozen in time. This is the true scientific curse. The physical breath of the ancient world itself, seeking a way back into the light. The ancient Egyptians were absolute masters of chemistry, biology, and preservation. They used resins, salts, and aromatic oils that held their chemical power for centuries. They didn't need magic to protect their kings. They used the very laws of the natural world to ensure their sanctity. The legendary curse was simply the natural, scientific consequence of stepping into a perfectly preserved, ancient ecosystem that had been isolated from the rest of the world. As you lie here now, in the absolute safety and comfort of your own space, think of how the truth is often much more peaceful and rewarding than the legend. There are no shadows following you from the past. There is only the quiet, steady, and predictable march of time. Everything that was once hidden is now understood. And everything that was once feared has become a source of incredible wonder and education. Let the myth of the curse dissolve away into the cool, dark night air like smoke. It is nothing more than a story told by the desert wind. A ghost of a memory that is now finally fading away into the distance. Your mind is clear and calm. Your heart is light. And you are moving deeper and deeper into the absolute safety of the night. The past is at rest. The kings are at peace. And so are you. We leave the dry, silent mountains and the hidden stone chambers of the valley behind us now. And we return slowly to the lush, green banks of the Great Mother. The Nile River. In the absolute darkness of midnight, the river is a moving ribbon of liquid silver. A mirror that reflects the infinite, flickering stars of the Egyptian sky. The water moves with a slow, hypnotic, and ancient rhythm. A steady, pulsing flow that has sustained every single life in this valley for over 10,000 years. Imagine yourself walking slowly and effortlessly along the muddy, fertile banks of the river. You can hear the gentle, rhythmic rustle of the tall papyrus reeds as they sway back and forth in the night breeze. A soft, shushing sound that seems to whisper the word peace over and over again. Far off in the dark distance, a solitary water bird calls out once to the moon, then falls back into a deep silence. The air here is so different from the dry desert. It is rich, humid, and smells deeply of sweet lotus flowers, wet earth, and the life-giving water itself. This river is the only reason we are here tonight. To the ancient Egyptians, the Nile was far more than just water. It was the sacred blood of the gods flowing through the land. They watched its seasonal cycles with religious devotion and absolute gratitude, knowing that their lives, their families, and their very existence depended entirely on its seasonal grace. Tonight, the river is in its quietest phase, flowing toward the sea with a weight and a dignity that only something truly eternal can possess. As you stand by the edge of the water, you see a small, traditional wooden boat. A felucca with its tall white sail folded down and tied for the night. It rocks gently and rhythmically with the movement of the current, the wood creaking softly as it breathes in the moisture of the night. This is the same rhythm that guided the sunboats of the gods across the sky in the ancient stories. Everything in this land is part of a beautiful, endless circle. The rising and setting of the sun, the flooding and receding of the river, and the natural journey from the day into the long, beautiful, and necessary sleep. Let the sound of the moving water become the sound of your own steady heartbeat. Slow, steady, and completely effortless. The river doesn't try to flow. It simply flows because it is its nature. You don't need to try to sleep tonight. It will simply come to you, like the rising tide of the Nile. You're drifting now, floating on the surface of this silver river of time, feeling the cool water support your weight completely. As you move closer and closer to the vast ocean of your dreams. Our 90-minute journey through the ancient wonders and scientific mysteries of ancient Egypt is now coming to its final, quiet rest. We have walked together among the white-capped pyramids that touch the stars. We have mapped the center of the galaxy from within the king's chamber. And we have rested in the golden, protected silence of the Valley of the Kings. The Pharaohs believed that their names must be spoken aloud for them to live forever in the memory of the world. Tonight, as we have whispered their stories and explored their science, we have given them a new kind of life in our dreams. But more importantly, through their history, they have given us the ultimate gift of their peace. They taught us that time is not an enemy to be fought or feared, but a great, wide river to be trusted and followed. Everything in the universe is preserved in its own way, and nothing of value is ever truly lost to the darkness. Look one last time at the dark horizon of your mind. The first faint, silver hints of a morning star, Sirius, are beginning to glow in the east. But the dawn is still many, many hours away. The world is still yours to enjoy in its quietest and most private form. The sands of the desert have finally stopped whispering. The river has carried away the very last of your conscious thoughts. And the great stone monuments of Giza are settled in their eternal, perfect balance. Your body is now as heavy, as warm, and as still as the ancient limestone of the pyramids. Your breath is as rhythmic and as reliable as the rising of the Nile. You have traveled through 4 long chapters of deep mystery, ancient science, and desert beauty. And now, you have finally reached the final destination of your journey. The field of reeds is open wide before you. It is a place where there is no more work to be done, no more difficult questions to be answered, and no more harsh light to be followed. There is only the blue, velvet dark of the night. There is only the soft, warm embrace of the silence. The pharaohs have found their eternal peace. The ancient architects have finished their divine work. And the stars are all in their perfect, intended alignment. It is now time for you to join them in the great, silent, and beautiful symphony of the universe. This has been Sleepy Theory. Thank you for traveling across the sands with us tonight. May your dreams be as vast and as golden as the Sahara. And may your rest be as deep and as permanent as the mountain. Close your eyes for the final time tonight. Your journey is over. Rest is eternal. Good night. Good night. Good night.